is the Nurses Doing GAMSAT Podcast, brought to you by Thankflip GAMSAT. We're here to teach you how to smash the GAMSAT, get into medicine, and become a flippin' great doctor.
Hey, Mare, how are you?
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. A little bit nervous. Got to be real. First episode.
Yeah.
And
Now, I
just
don't know whether I
excited.
should say Marie or Babe or Honey because we are married. So but I don't want to make it weird for listeners.
I think you can just call me Marie because it
Marie,
would be awesome
MJ.
if our listeners all called me Babe, but probably inappropriate, right?
Yeah, don't call me Babe. You can, Marie, but I don't think it would be appropriate for anybody else to do. But yeah, welcome everyone. This is the first or episode 0 of the Nurses Doing GAMSAT podcast. But before we get into that, Marie, you actually, I heard you before we started. You were on a few calls to people doing the GAMSAT. What? Tell me about that because that some of those sounded really interesting.
Oh, I have been slammed all morning with students who have some GAMSAT challenges, shall we say, and I've just been walking through exactly how to overcome challenges because I find, and like this morning I was specifically talking to nurses, but I find that nurses kind of have these unique challenges that come up that need to be solved. Like I won't mention his name, I'll call him T, but that's not his name starts with T. I had a nurse who's just like working shift work. He's finding it really challenging to find the time, but not just the time, because like shift work is still, you got an 8-hour shift or a 10-hour shift. It's the same whether it's kind of morning, night, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's the energy, like just having the energy after nights or, you know, waking up in the morning knowing that you've got to go to work in the afternoon and then having the right energy to be able to do that. He's really struggling with it.
Yeah.
And he was also totally just lost with section 3s. Like I haven't looked at sciences since I was in year 12 and that was a long, long time ago.
Yeah. And even then, a lot of nurses didn't or they didn't like it. Some of them did. Some of them really loved it, but they haven't looked at it since.
Yeah. So I feel like, it's been definitely a busy morning. It's our busy time of year right now. So we're recording it in December. Right now it's December, right before Christmas. I'm aware that most people are going to be listening to this kind of January-ish time, which is super busy. And there's just lots of people focused right now. Like
they've decided it's like all of a sudden, now's the time. I've got to do it now. I've got to get in. I've got to get started. And there's a huge amount of people.
It is the time though. Like if you're not serious right now, but if you're sitting March and it's January and you're listening to this and you're not studying, like you got to get studying right away. That's what's it.
Like, and there's enough time to get ready if you start now and you're doing the right stuff. Like for March, definitely for September, and for March as well. If you use your time well, if you study on the right things, which we're going to talk about today as well. But cool. Let's kind of talk about what we're here to kind of cover today. So if you guys haven't met us before, we'll do a little bit of an intro and then we'll talk about this podcast and what we're doing with it and what you can get from it as a nurse or healthcare professional doing the GAMSAT. So my name's Dr. Tom Forfer, and about 18 years ago now, I started a company called Past GAMSAT, and that was after I got myself into medicine. I had to do the GAMSAT like you are doing, and it took me 3 goes over 3 long, hard years. I did it March. But back then, people weren't doing September in Australia. That was like a UK thing. So I would do it March after March, and it was a grind, let me tell you. The first time I studied the usual way. I looked at the topics, and I studied the physics, the chemistry, the biology from a textbook, and I walked into that exam, and it was like being hit by a truck. Like sitting there for 6 hours. Back then, we did it all on paper on one day in the exam hall, and I was just floored by this thing. I remember where it was. It was in the old convention center in Darling Harbour in Sydney. And I remember walking out, the afternoon sun hitting my eyes. I feel like a vampire getting out because I've been indoors all day. And then just going, I'm going to need to do this again. I took a couple of days off, maybe a couple of weeks off, and I hit it again. I started praying for the next one. The next time I increased my score, I got an interview with the University of Sydney, which was my first preference. I was like, yes, I was cheering. But then I bombed that interview. Right, I messed it up. I probably did all the things I could have done wrong. I did wrong, and upon reflection, I realized what had gone wrong, and so I went at it a third time. Again, third year, and look, 2 years in, it was pretty rough because I not only had I increased my GAMSAT, which is great, but then I went and had an interview, and when you have an interview and they knock you back, it's even worse than getting a low GAMSAT score because they got to know you and they ask you questions and they're like, we don't want you around.
That's personal. That's personal,
yeah, it's far more personal, let me tell you. And so I remember at the time we were in London because we were like, what are we going to do for this year? We'll go work in London. And so I remember just having to pick myself up and go at it again because that was mid to late November at that point, and the next GAMSAT was coming up. I had to pick myself up and dust myself off and go at it again. Went at it again. That third time I got another interview with Notre Dame in Sydney, and I got through that one after implementing all the different lessons. And then I took everything I learned over those 3 years and I distilled it into one little ebook, and I gave that out to people for free. And it became the most popular GAMSAT preparation book on the planet, with the amount of downloads that it had. And from that, we added different components, and since then we've grown into a full service GAMSAT preparation company with tutors and practice questions and courses and all the different bits and pieces. And we have a whole team of people working with us these days, which throughout the course of this podcast, you probably meet some of them. You meet some of the boot campers, the people we've helped. We're going to be sharing some stories with you guys. And then over time, I realized, we both realized, Mare and I, that GAMSAT, yes, there's the physics, the chemistry, but then there's also other things you don't expect. Different skills and components, but even besides the skills and components, the mindset, the way it tests you and causes you to doubt yourself and wonder if you're good enough, and having to manage life and study. And so there's all these other components that come into it. And so over the years, we kind of wrap that up into a program, but also for the purposes of this podcast, we want to be sharing a lot of that with you guys to make sure that you're, on the right path. So that's kind of an abbreviated intro, but Mare, do you want to talk about your input? Because you've played a large significance, like it's been the two of us making this thing happen.
Yeah, it's like a very different story to yours because I never actually thought that I would be in the medical kind of field, because I studied education at university. So I've always been about teaching and helping people. And it just so happened that at the time, this guy that I was dating was really having challenges kind of getting into medicine. And so when you kind of combine my background in education and your kind of skills within the GAMSAT and you combine them together, this is kind of the love child of that, isn't it?
I think the story went a little bit differently. If
I really tell me, what am I missing?
It was like we were dating and you didn't know about this whole medicine thing. And then I'm like, babe, I want to become a doctor. And you're like, sweet.
Okay, maybe that did happen. Okay. I was like, oh, my man going to be a doctor. Amazing. Little did I know kind of the challenges that were going to come up with that. But look, these challenges are what make us who we are, right? Like if you got in and you just breezed into medicine, I feel
what can you teach us? Like, what can you really offer? Like, come on.
True. No, I agree. It's like you can't do anything. So I think that the struggles that you had in the beginning are really important. And it also taught all of these mindset things. So how do you get over like negative self-talk and that self-sabotage or that massive fear of failure? I actually was just speaking to a new bootcamp member, and I've lectured across many universities on the GAMSAT. And one of the questions I usually ask to a room full of, 1, 2, 3, 400 people, however many there are, is, put your hand up if you've sat it before, and, a number of people put their hands up, and then I get them to put their hands down once they hear the number of times that they've sat it before. So, I'll say, if you sat it once, put your hand down. If you've sat it twice, put your hand down. And I want to see how many times people have sat it. So My record was 8. Someone in the room had sat it 8 times. Today, literally today, I spoke to a student who sat it 10 times before on his own. And I was like, we need to change something with you, because if you've sat this exam 10 times and you're not in yet, there is a bigger problem than chemistry, biology, physics, or
topics,
poetry, or there is an underlying belief mechanism in your brain that is sabotaging success. So we've actually just built a plan for him around how to uncover what's actually going on to make sure that the 11th time, and it's going to be his first time sitting with us, but the 11th time is actually bloody in, because who wants to sit this exam 10 times? Like, no one, not even him. He's just like, oh, we need to get in. Like, it's time.
That's it.
Let's
he's
do
done.
it.
He's like sick of it. He's like, let's just get it. Now, I interrupted you, Maria, but you were telling your story, because I think that your HR background is important as well. And
yeah, look, I spent many years working in corporate, working just for a couple of mum and pop shops. That's what I call them. Just small little brands like Caltex, Clarins, Prada, Versace, Laura Mercier, if you're familiar with the cosmetics world.
I think if you know, that's one of those things.
If you know, just like an awesome cosmetic brand there. But I just spent years hiring, firing people, helping people overcome what their challenges are, adult education, and really my passion and what I love doing within Thank Flip is helping people overcome the barriers that they have, the barriers that they've made in their own mind to success. Because, I mean, I speak to nurses. I say nurses, but I say that loosely. What we really mean when we say nurses is healthcare providers, osteos, physios, pharmacists, ambos, nurses, anyone kind of in that realm. And I see these challenges coming up time and time again. It's not that they're not capable. It's not that they're not smart enough. It's like the opposite. They're often very, very intelligent people, but they have these blockages in their mind where they think this is too hard for me. And so what I love doing within Thank Flip is being able to get people to understand their inherent power within them and to step into that and to do the work. Because, sometimes people have got to do some work to go well in this exam. Not sometimes, all the time. But understanding that the power to do that is within them and to motivate them and inspire them to be able to step forward. So I do that through GAMSAT strategy, through accountability, through kicking ass sometimes, by a whole different range of strategies. But it's what I find fun. Hey, it's a good time for me.
Awesome. All right. And so now we've been running, doing past GAMSAT, and then it became Thank Flip, because we got to a point where we don't just help you pass the GAMSAT, we do a whole lot more. We help you with applications, because the applications process isn't just you put in your scores and the good thing happens. No, if you put in your scores wrong, the wrong preferences, you're not going to get anything, even if you have the scores. And we also help with interviews. So we've used Marie's experience in HR, but then also my experience. So I bombed out in the UCIT interview, and I learned a lot of valuable lessons that most people don't know. I got through the Notre Dame interview, and then I became an interviewer on the panel. I won't say which medical school, but I was the one asking the questions, looking at the criteria. And so I've seen that, and then I
think people can figure out which one you got.
I'm not saying which one. I'm not saying.
They might be able to figure it
out. And then we've coached people on it for years and years and years. And so, so we're called Thank Flip, as in Thank Flip. Someone can actually help me with this, because we couldn't curse in our name, because that flip is a different F word that people usually say when they finally find us and can see that we can help them and we understand what they're going through. So, we're Thank Flip GAMSAT, and so and over the years we've worked with all kinds of different people, and we've realized that healthcare professionals, right, like Marie said, nurses, ambos, physios, radiographers, not radiologists, they're the specialists, but all people from all kinds of healthcare. They're people that we really resonate with, and we'd love to help. And we also find that, they do the work, they kick ass, and we want to help you guys. And so we're talking to you We're going to be bringing on lots of different nurses and healthcare professionals who have made the leap to medicine, and how they will talk about their journeys, their challenges, how they've overcome it. In a couple of episodes, we're going to speak to a single mum who is a nurse, and how she got through GAMSAT, working and trying to make it happen. And so this podcast is for you guys. We're going to be helping you as much as we can, offering tips and support. And
I also think, Tom, representation matters. And I think there's so much out there for science students and biomed and med sci. And look, we love science students. There's nothing wrong with being a science student. It's great. The sciences are amazing. But when you can't see someone that's been in your situation that has made that leap, it can be really challenging to know if it's possible. So it's just like, having the first Black American president made lots of people understand, in America, this is something that I can do too. I can get into politics. And now we have Kamala and, all of that kind of stuff happening. But same thing here. Like when you can see other people who have done what you want to do, then it opens up all of this range of possibilities. So we're going to try and show you guys, are you a phlebotomist? Are you a physio? Are you an ambo? Are you a nurse? Whatever it is, we want to try and bring those stories to you so that you can also feel inspired and know it's 100% possible for you to do this. It is 100% possible. We're going to do a lot of work. But look, I've never met a nurse that's scared of hard work. That you're already doing the hard bloody work. Let me tell you right now, underpaid and overworked. And it's not the work that often scares people. It's understanding what to do and knowing that it's possible for them. So I'm excited just to create a space where you're finally represented as a nurse or a healthcare professional.
Yeah, sweet. And we touched on this earlier, but I think it's important to go into it a bit deeper, Marie. Like the challenges, the problems that nurses have doing GAMSAT, which, your average biomed student probably doesn't. And I think this is a reason why we're doing this as well, because you do face unique challenges. I mean, the first and most obvious one is the full-time work and the shift work component, right? If you're doing shift work, you know what it's like. Nights, evenings, mornings, fortnightly rosters, and then how do you squeeze in GAMSAT study and also the energy to be able to focus, because it does require, you can't just come mindlessly watch videos. It's not going to make a difference. You can't just memorize sciences. That's not going to help either. And so being able to balance those two, I don't like that word balance, because there isn't much balance. It's more finding ways to get it done and to recharge your batteries and to have be very proactive and purpose. What's the word? Kind of very intentional with your time and your actions, so that you get the most out of them. Like one of our boot campers, Danny, in the EDRN, he was struggling to get in 8 hours a week of GAMSAT study. He was doing shifts, and then we helped him to get to over 20 GAMSAT hours of study a week, which is what you need to be doing in the lead up to the GAMSAT, right? That's the kind of hours we're talking about. So work and study, balancing that. What else would you say, Marie?
I mean, the biggest thing that I find, and these are not my words, this is what people come to me, is that they just feel intimidated by the sciences. Like so many times I've just heard people going, I don't have physics. I haven't done physics for so long, or I haven't even looked at a maths problem, or, so sometimes that lack of a science background can be something that kind of puts people off. But the reality is that you're smart, intelligent people and you can learn stuff. Learning is not beyond you. So we've just got to make sure that the environment, put the environment as something that's going to enable you to learn, not something that's going to hold you back. And it's that kind of studying in isolation that can create the mindset challenges of negative self-talk, of that self-sabotage. And then the fear of failure goes up and then they stop studying. So to me, it's like the fear of the science section and then trying to hustle and grind on their own without being in that supportive community, or even just having some accountability. Sometimes it's right, I'll kick up the ass helps too, right?
And I think that's an interesting one. I think because we get nurses, and again, all healthcare professionals coming to us, and oftentimes they're afraid to tell anyone at work.
Oh, yeah.
They're making the leap to the dark side.
Oh, no. It's one of two things, Tom, honestly. Yeah. It's either nobody knows at work, or everyone knows at work because they're so freaking good. And the doctor's there going, why aren't you a doctor? You need to, and then they come to me and they go, people have been telling me for years that I need to be a doctor, but I've been scared of the GAMSAT, and I'm finally going to do it.
There's a doctor at work giving me tips about the GAMSAT and stuff, which is lovely, but
don't listen to the doctor at work because they haven't done the GAMSAT in so long. So it's good they're encouraging you. Listen to that bit. But the tips about the GAMSAT, they usually haven't looked at it for like 15 years. So
generally, it's the other side. It's like, I'm on my own. I don't know anybody else. Maybe you're in a rural location. Maybe you're in a big hospital and you don't know. And it can feel isolating, especially if you don't know anyone doing it. You don't have any friends doing it. And it's hard. You don't want to talk to, and it feels like you're alone, and you're just there with your own thoughts and your own doubts. And so, like Marie said, having that community and that support is really important there.
I remember Nick, that student Nick that we had. She was she lived rurally. It was like in Northern Territory in this tiny little hospital where she was the nurse practitioner and the AMBO combined in one.
Yes.
And basically she had a doctor on call. It was like her and one other person in this whole hospital in any shift at any one time, it felt like. Yeah. And like she could do it. She's smart. She's basically doing like a lot of the role anyway as a nurse practitioner, but her self-confidence was so hit that we needed to build that up because she was trying to study on her own. And look, when you're an AMBO and a nurse practitioner in a hospital and a trauma comes in, you're not thinking about GAMSAT. Like that's where you're present in your role, where she should have been. She's saving lives. But we needed to put her back into a supportive environment that wasn't so closed off. I mean, they really wanted her there. They needed her there. She was very rural. But if she got into med school, she was then going to have to leave there to do med school. So they maybe weren't as, let's say, supportive as they could have been. Yeah. Potentially, I don't know. And so that environment really made a big difference for her. And just having other people drive her and remind her how awesome she is, doing an incredible job.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah, we've got so many of these stories.
So many. I can't wait to share them. I'm so happy we get to share them now.
Yeah, fantastic. And then also tackling the sheer scope of the exam can be intimidating for a lot of them.
It's a big mofo.
That's a lot to it. The 3 sections. We talk about section 3 a lot, but what about section 1? With the poetry and the drama and the fiction and the non-fiction and the editorial cartoons and the statements and something from Freud came up recently, and it's like, how do you interpret Freud in 2.5 or 2 minutes or less, per question and get it done? It can, when you don't usually read that kind of thing. So that can be a challenge. And then also you have the essay writing.
You don't usually read that? You don't do symbolic poetry for fun?
Some people rarely. Yes.
Rarely. Okay, rarely. There are definitely some people, and we love them, but like, let's be real. Not many people are getting off their ED shift, going home to read their symbolic poetry.
Hey, it's scrolling on TikTok, and Instagram reels.
Maybe.
And that's something we're going to talk about as well. Yeah, social media and stuff. And then the section 2, the essays, right? That could be on almost any topic, or it can be on any topic. And then you're going to come up with a deep, insightful essay in 32.5 minutes. So it's fast. There's a lot. And then there's section 3 with all the and so there's just plus work, plus everything. So just managing it all. And so those are kind of the common kind of obstacles that we're going to be helping you guys along with throughout these episodes, and what we do in the boot camp as well. But more specifically, in the coming episodes, so this is the first one, kind of just introducing you to us and the podcast. But we are going to kick things off with a mini series, and the mini series is called the January Jumpstart, because It's released in January, and it's jumpstarting your GAMSAT preparation for the March exam. And it's a 4-part series where we're going to be working through some of these problems, getting you up and running with your GAMSAT preparation. There's going to be a separate community that we're going to run on Slack that will help to we'll deliver some extra bonuses, some extra study resources there. We'll do Q&As in there, and we'll have that community there. We're going to cover a few topics here. And so that's kind of how we're going to be kicking things off. So if you're watching this around January, then the jumpstart's happening, you should go to thankflipgamsat.com/jumpstart. That's thankflipgamsat.com/jumpstart, and it's free to register. You'll get all the bits and pieces, access to the channel and all the things. Now,
everything's free, right? All of it. The channel's free. The live Q&As with us are free. All the videos are free. All free.
To get you guys moving and rocking and rolling and heading the right direction. Now, if you're watching this after the Jumpstart, after January, go to that link anyway, because we're going to update it after the Jumpstart's over to give you some free things anyway, some support anyway. So no matter when you're watching this or listening to this, go to thankflipgamsat.com/jumpstart and get into it. Thanks for joining us. We've got some great stuff for you guys. And thanks, Mare. This has been great.
Yeah, I want to remind everyone, you're not alone. You can do this. We've got you. We are here. Nurses make great flippin' doctors, let's face it. So until next time, just stay inspired, stay focused, and remember, You
got this. See you next time.
Bye.
Hey, I have a cool gift for you, just for listening to the Nurses Doing GAMSAT podcast. We do some of our best work in our Facebook group called, you guessed it, Nurses Doing GAMSAT. It's free to join, and every day we're sharing actionable guides, tips and tricks, and really just how to smash the exam and get into medicine. You can join today by searching Nurses Doing GAMSAT on Facebook. Thanks for listening to another episode, and I'll see you next time.